All right, if you guys can pick up on the tone of what the show is going to be, we're doing a mailbag today, as we are doing every Monday throughout the offseason. Just wanted to say, again, thank you so much for all the questions. I'm not even going to solicit questions next week when we're doing this because we have so many that I haven't even been able to read. A lot of good voicemails this week, more voicemails than we could even use. So we're going to be using a ton of them here over the next couple shows. Sincerely appreciate you guys taking the time to send them in. It always means a lot. So again, I think it goes without saying, very grateful how engaged all of you are with what we're trying to do here. And starts with the first question here. This is the first one I opened, by the way. John Truxus says, I was listening to the discussion about Miami's draft picks and the assembly of so many players with explosive speed made me think about parallels in other sports. Is the idea they're similar to the 5-out offense, where shooting all over the floor opens up so much extra space for each individual player to work in? What would the limitations be for an offense designed like that? Are there just not enough singularly exclusive skill players available to build a whole team on the idea? Or is it a situation where the defense can take away those short passes with big yak unless the quarterback running the offense has the full set of skills to keep them honest? Great question. Love it. Great way to start.
Yeah, and a cross sports reference, so right up my alley. I think when I think of the football version of 5-out offense, I get the idea of this speed being 3-point shooting. I think of 5-out offense in football being like what the 49ers are doing, where everybody has versatile skill sets as opposed to just speed, if that makes sense. Yeah,
I sort of understand that.
That's kind of what I look at it as, like that to me, that's the equivalent, because in a 5-out offense in basketball is everyone can shoot, everyone can dribble and drive, and everyone has that skill set. And then if you want,
it's interchangeable, right? I guess that makes sense. Okay.
That's where my brain went.
So I think the alignment of skill sets, that's a very good comparison where it's interchangeable skill sets. You could switch everything on defense. Like that's exactly what the Niners are trying to do. But I think the idea of space as currency is why this is comparable. And we've heard so much over the last decade about the gravity that someone like Steph Curry has when he's playing. Tyreek Hill has gravity.
Yes.
That's the change. And the other reason that I think this is particularly interesting in the context of the Dolphins is the Dolphins aren't a yak offense.
No,
it's a misconception. People think the Dolphins are this yak offense because the Niners are, and there's the overlap with Mike McDaniel. The Dolphins were near the bottom of the league, or way closer to the bottom than you think.
It was a chuck it offense.
Yes. So the way that they create space is that they can work underneath, right? So they're creating so much space, and the gravity is so pronounced that you're creating this ocean of space in which to throw the ball. It's not get the ball in the guy's hands and let him go. So we saw what the limits of this are, right? It's don't let them have the space. I think the Chargers were the team that starts to introduce where the limitations of this are. Everyone was so terrified to play man coverage against the Dolphins because they didn't want to just be burned down. But if you don't let fast guys run fast, if you jam them at the line of scrimmage, if you be physical with them, that's where you can start to do a little bit of damage. And that's where the Dolphins, the next stage of this, on some level, you have to match the physicality of the teams that you're playing against, either with the running game or with some receivers who can bring some physicality to what you're doing.
And that's funny because my second part for this was talking about the downsides of going with speed, or why doesn't everyone do this? Like, well, usually a lot of the fast guys are small.
Yes.
And usually, because if they're big and fast, you're probably not going to get your hands on them. Like as far as drafting and acquiring them, because there's only so many that can actually do that.
There's one Jamar Chase every 5 years in the draft.
Right. And next year there's gonna be a Marvin Harrison, and like that, there's not a lot of those guys walking around the earth. And usually if a guy just is winning with speed, they don't have skills. They don't have catching ability. They're just a take the top off guy. That's why Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are so incredible, is because they actually are receivers.
Tyreek Hill is rocked up. Tyreek Hill is 5'10", but Tyreek Hill was built in a way that very few players in NFL history are built, and he has to stop and start. If you're a lot of the guys that are speed guys in the NFL, they're take the top off guys. They're wiry. They're straight line guys. They don't have the change of direction. They can't throttle down. Yes. Or like even Jalen Hyatt, right? Like it's just the guy that think about how they're built. They got a little bit longer strides, like, and you're not worried about them throttling down in front of you. That's why the Dolphins are so terrifying, because they can throttle down in front of you. If you're playing over the top, they're going to make you pay underneath. So I think there are limitations of it, but I think that we've seen that idea that you would explore with creating more space on offense expressed in what the Dolphins are trying to be.
And a lot of offenses too, and this is what we talk about, ability to pivot or have answers to. We talked about the Chiefs, we talked about the Bills, and this is where it's nice having that ability to pivot and have that size that you referred to, either through the run game or having a ball winner on the outside, a thumper or a ball winner, because sometimes you need it. And that's what the best offenses do, is just, oh, you're taking away this. Well, we're going to go to this. And that is where it's not a limitation, but it's just like, you just have to have that in your bag. Like we see in like the NBA in the playoffs, it's the benches get shorter where the teams are only playing 6-7 guys sometimes. And they just go, oh, they're taking away this. They're taking away the pick and roll. Well, we got to do this now. And that's where you see it's just that ability to pivot. It's the same thing with football. And sometimes you just need those different skill sets at different times based on what defenses are doing. I thought that was one of the coolest things. And it's so funny because it technically was the worst part of their season for the Dolphins in December, was that second half of the Chargers game and then the Bills game the next week or a couple of weeks after, where all of a sudden they changed their offense to an under center run game. And that was really cool. Maybe appreciate Mike McDaniel even more to do that in real time. So that ability to pivot is something that's always needed. And sometimes that's a limitation when you are built around 5'9", 180-pound speed guys. That can happen.